Welcome, everybody, to the Scale Up Show. This is your host, Ryan Staley, and I have a very special guest back with me today. I have Robin Daniels, who is the Chief Business and Product Officer and Go-to-Market Officer, right, at Zensai. This man's done some amazing work, has taken companies like WeWork and Matterport to IPO, has been a 3-time CMO himself, had an awesome episode on the impact of AI with human development in part 1. So if you missed that, go back and check that out. But today we're going to get a lot deeper in terms of AI and actual use cases and how we're leveraging that today. He's got a unique view across product and marketing. So I'm really excited to talk to you about this today. Robin, welcome. Happy to have you back, man.
It's nice to be back for part 2. Let's do it.
All right, so let's geek out, man. We geeked out on a lot last time. It wasn't just human development. It was like brand. You dropped some bombs there in terms of like how to connect with people at an authentic level. And I thought that was great, not just related to product, but as an organization emotionally. And so very, very solid there. So let's shift gears a little bit and get a little bit more, I guess we go strategic and then tactical, but like organizationally, you're an international company. You're about 30 million plus. Now you have a strong partnership with Microsoft, right? In the 365 stack, you're integrated in that. Like, how are you leveraging tools like ChatGPT, Copilot, tools like that in your business today? So let's start more from like a executive perspective, and then we can kind of drill down into product and other team use cases, if that's cool.
Sure. I mean, the company that I work for is called Zensai, and we are building what we call the human success platform. And it's really focused around 3 core vectors. One is around learning, one is around performance management, and the third one is really around employee engagement, making sure employees are motivated to do great work. We have made a strategic move to focus 100% on Microsoft, meaning our tech is also built 100% on Microsoft, which means that the AI that we use in our products in all kinds of ways, and we can get into details of exactly how we do that, but it's also using Microsoft AI and, of course, OpenAI behind the scenes for that as well, which means that we get the power, the rapid development, the distribution, hopefully the trust that Microsoft and OpenAI is generating in industry, because we also made a strategic bet to not build our own AI team. I mean, we're not at the scale that would make sense for us, especially when you see how rapid Microsoft and OpenAI are developing AI. It makes more sense to just use the technologies that they are really leading the market with. I mean, it's funny how it goes. I mean, I know you and I have chatted a little bit about, we've both been around for a while. I mean, if you'd asked me a few years ago if Microsoft would have been the leader in AI, I'd be like, what? You know, and now they're like crushing it because Satya Nadella is probably one of the best CEOs of our time who can really see around corners. But we've made that call as a company to just 100% focus on building on top of that. And of course, doing implementations in a way for our product that makes sense for our users and our customers.
Okay. Yeah. He is crushing it. He's doing a good job of being way ahead of the curve on everything. You could tell, I mean, like he's not just invested in OpenAI, he's invested in Mistral, right? Which is an open source model. I saw that. I feel like they got their hands on everything now. Didn't he even invest in Anthropic a little bit too, or no?
I think so. I think he did. I think he did too. Yeah. As far as I know,
he's all over the place. He's definitely hedging his bets, which is smart. And then
even LinkedIn. I mean, I used to work at LinkedIn many years ago, and I remember writing the keynote for a huge annual user conference in 2018, and it was all about AI. I mean, so I think it's been kind of bubbling under the surface for a long time. And at that point in time, we talked about AI, using AI in the LinkedIn products for recruiters to find the perfect candidate, right? What was happening. And now I feel like, of course, it's been in a lot of products for a long time, but OpenAI really kind of took the covers off, and it just expanded the visibility for everyone, and it kind of crossed the chasm from just being this geeky thing for businesses to now being a consumer grade product that people use every day, much because of the leadership that they've been displaying.
Definitely changed the game there. It was definitely under the surface or in the background of Spotify, Netflix, you name it, for recommendation engines. 100%. So how about you, man? Like, what do you use it for at your level, being over product and go to market? Like, what are some of your favorite personal use cases?
Well, so let me give an example. So, core part of our platform is a learning platform, learning management system. A big part is that we sell a learning management system. We don't sell the content, but we sell the platform itself to companies around the world who want to offer courses, learning paths to their employees in whatever thing they have. And you can think about every company has this, right? You get onboarded and they're like, oh, you have to take your compliance training, your cybersecurity training, your sexual harassment training, blah, blah, blah. But then there are also usually courses that are specific to your role, like in marketing and sales and product and, all that kind of stuff. And the companies that we sell to, the people that we sell to, learning and development managers or HR people, you know how much time they spend on creating these courses? I mean, we're talking weeks and weeks to create courses because it's gathering the information, putting together the right questions, the right kind of flow, and so on. And now you have AI can come in and do that for you like that. You could point basically towards, let's say, a 10-page Word document or a 50-page PowerPoint presentation or a YouTube video and say, hey, based on this document, based on this video, can you create a 10-minute course with 2 questions at the end for the learner to ensure that they've actually retained the knowledge and show me what you got? And it can do it like that. And then, of course, that means that somebody who is in learning and development or in HR and they're creating all this content, which is, again, very time consuming, they can now probably cut that down by 90, 95%. It doesn't always come back. Of course, we know that there's still a lot of work happening in AI to make it perfect, and we're on that journey, but it'll get you pretty close. It'll come back with something that you can then use to maybe make some tweaks to that will be great to actually roll out to your people much faster. So that means that the efficiency you can see in those kind of teams is astounding. And AI, we just couldn't do that before AI. But this again, where AI is great with large data sets, connecting the dots across a lot of different things. So that's one use case that we see a lot. Another one that I love, another part of our platform is this idea of a weekly check-in where you as an employee, every week you answer 4 questions. What did I achieve last week? What's blocking me from achieving my goals? How am I doing on a scale of 1 to 10? And who do I want to high five? Like, who do I want to give, some kudos to? And they're all meant to do different things. One is to kind of give you that closeness to your manager so you can have a real-time conversation more or less around, am I working on the right things? But it also shows the connective tissue between you and the other people in the organization. Like, I can see that Susan is consistently getting called out for the great work she's doing by her colleagues versus maybe Joe, who rarely gets a call out and so on. So you can start seeing those patterns. But AI really comes into play here. Me as a manager, I have a large team spread out across the world. And if I can see somebody puts in maybe something that's blocking them from being successful, I'm not getting along with this person, or I don't have the right resources, so I'm struggling with these skills. We've now instituted what we call AI coaching, where the AI can read through that and come up with a couple of recommendations for how I can respond in the best, most human way. And you can tweak that. So do you want it to sound maybe a little bit more direct? Do you want it to sound more emotional and empathetic, right? And so on. So it's not meant to take away the manager's job, because we also want to, of course, improve the manager, but it gives you this prompt of like, what should I say back here? And we can, of course, see that because we have the data in the background around what makes this kind of tension or conflict. How do you resolve that? We can come back with some issues, and AI is really good at that, coming back with something. Then you can choose as a manager or a leader, like, how do you actually want to respond? Do I want to use this that it's coming back with, or do I want to use something else, and so on? You can ask, can you come up with a different version of this? So I love that. And then finally, for goal setting, the more we know about you and who you interact with and what your goals are, we can lead you on a path using AI towards that path. So if you want to say, I want to be a VP of customer success one day, or I want to be a chief marketing officer one day, well, guess what? Here are the skills that you need to learn over the next 3 to 5 to 10 years. Here are the people you should be connecting with who can maybe coach you and mentor you. Here are the goals you should be setting for yourself. Here are maybe some soft skills you should be taking. Public speaking, if you're trying to be an externally focused CMO, maybe public speaking is something you need to level up, versus if you're trying to be an internally focused operational guru. The more we know about you, we can use AI to guide you towards that path. And the outcome of that is people feel like they're going on a path where they feel motivated by the goals and the future. Because we know from all the data out there, I just saw the latest stats from Gallup, 70%, Ryan, 70% of people want to quit their jobs. And when you dig deep into the data, why do 70% of people want to quit their jobs? Because they don't feel like there's any future in what they're doing. They're not learning, they're not growing, they're not developing, they feel like stuck. One of the worst feelings in the world is when you feel stuck. And so can we use AI in a very human way to guide you towards a better future and a better outcome for you? And it's not to be altruistic and be nice, because we know that companies who figure this out, they see better levels of profit and higher levels of revenue because those employees are showing up every day doing better
Mhm.
work. I mean, I can ask you this question. Do you think the 70% of people who are unhappy, are they doing the best work of their life? I don't
No.
have the data, but I doubt that they are, And so we want to be the platform that tries to at least solve some of that.
Okay. Yeah, I think those are, I mean, love all three of those examples that you gave, right? So rapid learning enablement, I guess you could say, or creation of that,
Mm-hmm.
right? Is number one. Number two
Mm-hmm.
is kind of having that employee feedback, but then also responding in a timely manner with assistance on that.
Mm-hmm.
And then reverse engineering. Number three is the goal setting, right? Reverse engineering, like a talent path for future outcomes. So then they
Mm-hmm.
have that investment. And I would say number three is one that I've seen when I've managed people, that was the hardest I've ever seen them work and the most
Mm-hmm.
intentional is when I attach to that. So I think that's huge
Well,
because
think about it. I mean, you and I don't. I mean, you and I don't know each other super well, but I can venture to guess you're very successful. I don't think you'd be where you are if you weren't. But it's probably because lots of people have invested in you and believed in you and kind of nudged you in the right direction. That's what a good mentor does, whether that's a boss or a parent or a teacher or whatever it is, however they show up. And if our platform can be that in some way, that's also why we're called Sensei, right? Because it's like everyone needs like a teacher in their life in some way who can push them in the right direction to become the best that you can be, whatever that means for you.
Yeah, no, thanks for the kind words, man. And my mom was a teacher, so maybe there's some crossover with that, right? She was a teacher growing up, so a lot of that was instilled on me. But yeah, there's some really amazing people that I learned from over the years. And then one of the reasons why I love
Mhm.
doing this show too is I learn from a little something from every guest that I have on, right? So, we're over 400 episodes now, I believe. So that's a
Wow.
lot of
Wow.
it's a lot of intentional learning from CEOs
Wow.
and high level executives, right? So um,
That's wild.
so I'm going to give you a use case that I thought of in episode one that you made me think about. We were talking about your role in terms of go to market and product. And I love
Mhm.
your use cases. So I'm not shading those. I'm just like adding on to them just in a different way. And one of them that I've noticed, and I've spent a lot of time on this, because being the CEO of my own business, I had to be very intentional in terms of creating product when I was on the go to market side
Mhm.
alone, not like you where you're doing both sides of it. I never had that responsibility, right? So
Mhm.
one of the things that I've invested a lot of time in and started to really, I think, figure out strongly is leveraging sales transcriptions, like from sales calls or live trainings that I'm doing to hit on three areas. And it's across marketing, product, and sales, right?
Mhm.
For marketing, basically creating like a customer Grammarly on the language they
Mhm.
use of like the highest converting people versus the non-converting, as
Mhm.
well as identifying new challenges that they're having from that, right? Just from the transcriptions of the training and the questions they ask. What that's leading into on the product side now are basically what's the next product that they need or the next thing that they need or
Mhm.
how to
Mhm.
improve the existing product and then infusing that language and those details on the product side. And then sales, once again, it's covering those objections that before they come up by using the questions of the converting sales
Mhm.
calls versus the non-converting into sales enablement, presentations, positioning, messaging, all those
Mhm.
things. So that's
I think
one of
it's
my
super
favorite use
good.
cases.
I love because also, especially B2B sales, well, let's not kid ourselves. It's complicated. I mean, the amount of stakeholders involved and the sales cycle is long. The more you can anticipate what's going to be asked based on pattern recognition, again, AI is perfect for this, right? Then you can build all the right videos, materials, and so on. So your champion can get to fall in love with you, but more importantly, they can sell internally.
Oh
It's
yeah.
not just about selling; it's about selling through, right? Selling through that person, and I think that that's a great use case, honestly. I mean, I feel like if you nail this with the right information, data, and the feedback, you should be able to create that content like that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. I'm going through the iteration of like making sure that because you could do anything fast with AI, right? But you just don't
Mm-hmm.
want it to be crap, right? You want it to be good, like solid.
No,
So just trying to make sure there's like high levels of integrity in terms of the output, right? So, but it's pretty
totally.
good. What about with your team, man? Like, so what are you
Mm-hmm.
seeing like amazing use cases that you see on the marketing, the go to market side? Let's stay on the go to market side. So like sales or marketing, what are some amazing use
Mm-hmm.
cases that you folks are using internally or that you've seen from other peers or folks that you've talked to?
Yeah, but I mean, it's all over and in different groups of people. I mean, in marketing, the obvious one is definitely around creating content. We can create content so much faster now. We can take
Mm-hmm.
gold piece of content, like a really meaty artifact, and distribute it and create many different iterations of this very quickly using AI for social media, for web pages, landing pages, and so on. AI is just great at supersizing our efficiency that way. It's basically like having a superhero in your pocket. So content creation, I would say, is probably the strongest in marketing right now. I would say in sales, it's a lot of it's around this idea of listening to customer conversations, prospect calls, customer calls, and really kind of seeing what the patterns are. We're just, I would say, early in our journey on that as well. Rolling out the technology to do that. We did that recently. And so it's really fascinating, kind of the insights that we're getting from that. Just again, it's very similar to kind of what you said, but right now we're using it mostly just to really, I would say, become much more skilled in again, the sales process that we have as we're scaling across the world. And then in product, honestly, it's really around a lot of product that engineers are using, of course, Copilot and so on to help write code much faster. I mean, it's really kind of like a superpower there as well. The testing is much faster as well, and so our teams are using it across that. But I would also say, I mean, this is one of the things where I'm trying to also push the team a little bit more. It's like we should be using it pretty much every part of the workflow. But I'll be honest, I'm also guilty of this myself. Is that again maybe because I'm a little bit older, I don't know, but it's still not 100% part of my workflow. Even though I'd like it to be, I know it should be. I feel there's so many places, but I still do too many things manually. Even though as I would say my own personal use of AI is really kind of been escalating over the last couple of months. When it first came out, it was cute. It was kind of a toy, and now I'm like I can really start seeing some of the benefits of this. I use it maybe not every day, but I would say at least every other day to help me summarize some documents or help me figure out like what's important in these Teams channels, or summarize this PowerPoint presentation, or what were the actions from this meeting that happened, and so on. It's like really trying to be much more efficient, because the main thing for me is how I spend my time. And I only have so many hours in the day, and the more efficient I can be with that, hopefully the better outcomes I can have.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. I mean, like there was a study that Asana and Anthropic did that, like if you get your usage of it daily, multiple times a day, the productivity jumps from like 50% to, or maybe even 20% to like 93% improvement with that. So I think that's definitely huge of creating the habit where it's like something that you use all the time. So I think
I'm curious about you. What's your usage of it? Daily, hourly, weekly?
I use it every day, multiple times a day. Probably, obviously, I'm not using it now. We're on the podcast, right? But I think like I definitely use it every day, multiple times a day for anything I can. And then like, and that could range from like strategic work, and like that could be some of the use cases I mentioned sometimes. And it's the thing that I like, here's the thing that's like kind of hit me that I'm trying to like figure out the best solution for is like, I think like all these models are their own unique snowflakes in terms of like how they were created and architected. And so they have really big inherent strengths and weaknesses. And so like what I'll do is I'll pop across different ones. Obviously there's core ones I use, like I use ChatGPT probably the most. Claude has really worked its way into, especially with Sonnet being released, the 3.5 version. Cause like, and I've spent some time on this. I want to do, but like I'm a non-coder, and I could actually code up like MVPs in that thing now. Like, and so that's like really like eye-opening to me. You know what I mean? So that's one of the things. And then like automation is something I'm digging deeper into, because that's like you're saying, I love that analogy, like a superhero in your pocket, right? Imagine having a superhero in your pocket that runs while you're sleeping. Right. You know what I mean? Or works out for you while you're sleeping, right? Like that's kind of the next phase of it. And I've started to do things like that. But here's what I would tell you. The biggest thing that has that's been the most eye-opening for me, basically AI use and business use cases, is I was just doing this for one client, like in terms of implementing, we identified over like a 2.5 month period, they've implemented over probably 45 different use cases. And it's for like a 22 person go-to-market team. Right. So like
wild.
That's what, but here's where I start to see things exploding when I'm like, how can I use it for this or that? And this is probably why is like when I find a new use case, I'll log it and then also write down the idea I have for like how that could help someone solve a problem or another thing. And so it becomes like, that's how I started to get the habit going is like, I'm just going to, because most people use it and then they like use the use case once, they forget about it and they don't track it. And so that's one of the things. Then also I collect prompts and have a prompt library for all that too. So it just kind of like snowballs from there, if that makes sense.
Well, we need like an Aura ring for AI that reminds you every day to use it, you know?
Yeah, you get electrocuted.
Exactly.
You haven't used it.
You use AI today.
Yeah, right. Like, I don't know. My family's probably annoyed because like I talk about it a lot and I'm like, how can we play with this? How can we try this? So I'm like curious like a little kid too. So, but unfortunately we're up on time, man. Again, this blew by. Episode 1 blew by. Episode 2 blew by. You're an amazing guest, man. It was awesome having you on. Where can people find you? Where can they find out more about Zensai? And then we'll wrap things up, man.
Yeah, go to zensai.com. That's Sensei. Or you can also find me on LinkedIn. I just search for Robin Daniels. I'll be probably the first or second person that comes up, and just connect with me there. I'd love to.
Yeah, man. Robin, so much fun, dude. This is awesome. This is a pleasure. Thanks for being on again. It was a great show, man.
Thanks so much, Ryan. It's great to be here. Let's do part 3 soon.
Yeah, we will. I think, you know what? I'm going to have you on with a couple other people. I think we need to do something like that, right? Where we mix it.
Great. I'm in.
Thanks for being on, man. And I will see you on the next episode.
Good.